Hello and welcome to the egregiously titled Mr. Chapple's Handcrafted podcast. I, unsurprisingly, am Robert Chapple. And as always, we are sponsored by Close Call Creative, your one-stop shop for creative direction and digital media solutions. This is where I plead and I beg for anybody who's got this far into the first 30 seconds to please subscribe to the YouTube channel and or to follow us on Spotify. Both of those, please, would really help. I have a wife who would love to retire on the proceeds from this podcast, and it's not happening just yet. With that, we're going to jump to today's guest. I am genuinely delighted to be in conversation with the wonderful Mark Hegan, who's guitar player, songwriter from Bangor, and you've released, I'm going to say one album? No, two.
Two EPs. Yeah, I have indeed, and a load of singles.
They're circular. I don't care. They're small albums. Anyway, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll drop into some questions about your past, your present, your future, and all that.
Yes, Robert, awesome to be here. Really appreciate you having me on your podcast. It's great. I'm Mark Hegan. Yep, from Bangor, and I'm a singer-songwriter. And I am an artist, indie artist. Yeah, I have a band and tour the countryside and release songs and yeah, try and do as well as I can.
Fair enough. So in terms of, let's going back into the past, I've seen you on stage. I've filmed you now 3 times. What did your younger self think that life in the music world would look like? And I suppose the follow-on immediately from that is, how does that initial vision, childlike vision, compare to the reality as you've experienced it?
Gosh, it's a great question. The really, really important thing about music, I suppose, any art that people are making, is keeping in contact with that idealistic child that's in you. And as life gets on and you get on, it's harder to do, but I think so much of it is, you're doing it for them. At least I am, and I think about that child who fell in love with music and wanted to do this. And I think if they saw me, they'd be like, wow, because the idea of doing it was so far off and so impossible. So I like to think that my younger self would be pleased with how I'm getting on. I think he would. But it's key to, the lifestyle and everything like that, of being a musician and being a songwriter, is keeping in touch with that child, and that excitement and that joy of life and that infinite possibility is just so important. And don't let adult life kind of get in the way. Keep it at bay. Accept it, I think, but keep it at bay. Don't let it
At a very kind of practical level, how did you start in music? Like, I presume, in primary school, you got a recorder. Yep. Or did you take it from there?
Yeah, no, I really, okay, so the first time I remember being interested in music or enjoying music was in the car with my family, and I was asking for the Dum 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 song, and that was Paul Simon and You Can Call Me Al, and that's the first music I remember, pop song I remember, which would have been a better title, Dum 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 Dum. Maybe You Can Call Me Al, open brackets, Dum 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 Dum, close brackets, would have been key. That would have been great.
I feel so old hearing that.
Yeah. So
I remember when that album came out.
Yeah, well, I was, my parents loved it. It was before my time, long before my time. But I absolutely love Paul Simon. It's a huge part of my life. But that was the first time I remember that. But then also, um, movie music. John Williams is, he's the first, like, well, my first love of music was really him. Because I loved movies. The very first thing I ever wanted to be was a film director, but the music and everything he did just touch, and it still does. That's just it. It touches my soul. And I all I wanted was, the music from Jurassic Park, and so I when I was about 6 or 7, and we couldn't find it anywhere because the shop didn't have it, et cetera, et cetera. We couldn't find it on the internet or whatever, or couldn't order it. Or my parents didn't know how to, and so my older brother, um, got a copy of not the Jurassic Park original soundtrack, but John Williams' Greatest Hits, 1969 to 1999, and it was a double disc, and he brought that home for me. He was at uni, and he brought that home for me, and that just changed my life, because it introduced me to not only just certain pieces I knew, but a filmography. I'd be like, well, this is a lovely piece of music. What film is that? Da, 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 da. And so many different pieces of music. And that was great. Then after that, into the, like, kind of the pop world, the first gig I went to was Franz Ferdinand, which was great when I was like 10. And then after that, I found Snow Patrol, from Bangor, that was so powerful. Seeing them live for the first time, that just unlocked everything. Pivotal age, and just the idea that, something like that was possible was so special. And that was really Green Day as well in there, what my brother was listening to. But Snow Patrol I just felt like something in me was reflected. And that was the first time that, like a musician, like an indie or just any musician, had really made me feel like, I could do something, empowered me to feel valuable, and like I had a future, and this is what the future could look like. And it's just the most special thing. So I'll always love them for giving me that. And then, yeah, then I found music, and that was that. And it was playing the guitar every moment, playing the guitar. I remember playing the guitar on the toilet. That's how intense the whole thing was. And that was it. And I ran with that. And then as I became a
So how
teenager,
old were you around the time you started playing guitar?
12. I was 12.
12.
And I played piano before that. And I remember hating it so much, but my mum making me do it. I played piano from 8 years old and had lessons in school. And I hated it so much that I remember standing outside the house saying, I'm not coming in, and I'm not gonna eat dinner. I'm not gonna. So basically, just on a hunger strike or something. I don't know what I was trying to do. To say I'm not playing music. I'm not. I'm not doing the piano because I hated it so much. And then a few years later, I loved the guitar, and then I learned the piano again through my knowledge of the guitar. And yeah, that was really it. And then found in my teenage years, I found Bruce Springsteen, and I found U2, who just, oh my goodness. So that answers the question in a long-winded way.
Next piece that I want to leap from that is, how do you go from, there's a lot of people, strum guitar, learn. How do you go from that to, I'm putting a band together, I'm getting on stage?
Yeah, good point. I remember when I first really started loving music, I was like, well, I can't be the singer. I can't be that guy, because that's too cool, or that's too, I don't know. And so I was, it was keyboards. I remember the first band I was in was with my best friend. Still, he's my best friend. And it was almost like really punk influenced, and I was just on the keys going, all right. I couldn't hear myself because I didn't know about amplification. I didn't know anything. Didn't know what a key was. No one in the band knew what a key was. And so we were just playing the riff on our individual instruments and all that. Everybody has those sort of moments. And then I remember going, do you know what? I was learning guitar and I was like, I might be able to do this now better than the keyboard, and maybe I could sing. And so I started this wee thing, this wee breakaway thing, where I started writing my own songs, and it was just one step at a time, quietly, still very nervous. In fact, that never changes. I'm still very nervous if someone goes, "Are you a singer? Well, what is your music? Can I find you?" And then the worst thing is if they start playing, that happens sometimes, they start playing your music on their phone. Is this you? Oh God, yeah, 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 that's me. That's please stop. So, but yeah, that it's just one by one, and then writing songs late at night and hiding them under your bed and notes and stuff like that. That's
I love that. And again, and I've said this to so many people that I've spoken to, generally, but also on this podcast, that it never fails to amaze me how fearless so many of you appear on stage, and yet are so racked with self-doubt at times. And it's interesting, from just a human perspective, to hear that context. And I think it should be something that people that are wondering about getting on stage themselves for the first time should realize, that even people that have been doing it a long time are still have these feelings, and they work with them. And like I said, I've seen you several times playing. If I had to ask what the emotions in your head were at any given time, before it or during it or after it, fear was not ever going to be one of them.
yeah, it's your self-doubt and all those things are your fuel. And for me, what I think I'm doing is, and I never realized this because I love music. It made me feel a certain way. It made me feel all these things. But then as I got older, I realized that I was just, what I'm really trying to do is, I think it's just, I'm trying to repair a sort of inadequacy I feel in myself, or felt in myself when I was younger. Maybe I didn't feel particularly heard, or not, I didn't feel individual. Not that I think music is about being an individual. I think it's about, it's a conversation with your audience and a togetherness, but I didn't feel special maybe in a certain way when I was growing up. I had a wonderful childhood and everything, don't get me wrong, but I think you're trying to repair, you're a repair artist for yourself, and that's what you're trying to do. My mum taught me when I was, or she tells the story quite a lot, when I was little and like 3 years old. I all family. I'm one of seven, and so I'm the youngest, and I a full brother Duncan, who's a year older than me, and then half brothers and sister. They're all brothers and sister, though I don't like saying half, but just for context, and they're much older. And I remember standing up, or I don't. Well, I remember it vaguely, but Mum tells it, so maybe it's a remembered um memory, if that makes sense. But she said that I'd be up in the chair when everyone was talking, and I'd be shouting, "I have something to say." So do with that what you will. Well, a microphone makes you pretty loud, and a stage, so I think a lot of people who do this for, I'm sure they do it for different reasons, but I know I'm doing it for, I think there's something I'm trying to say, and something I'm maybe trying to repair. And that's the fuel that makes you do it.
I think that's really interesting. Though I also think that maybe for season 2, I'm going to interview the mothers of artists.
Yeah, that'd be great. Oh gosh.
We'll get the real stories.
Yep.
In terms of influences, can I ask you, give me 3 records that explain everything about where you're coming from? What would they be?
They would be Snow Patrol's Eyes Open. U2's, oh boy. Oh boy. It would either be Joshua Tree, Acting Baby, or maybe All That You Can't Leave Behind. One of them. And Bruce Springsteen's Darkness on the Edge of Town, or The Rising. I'll say Darkness on the Edge of Town. Yeah.
Those are 3, and you've hedged your bets. Um, yeah, 3 really solid albums. So, if you sat me down, we hadn't met, and you gave me those 3 albums, what kind of core thread should I be taking out of those as it relates to you?
So when I write, the music that I write, I think it's not the sentiment I've not invented at all or anything like that. The feeling I haven't invented at all. I just try and do it because I love it. But I think those guys, and those albums, they say, well, Darkness in the Edge of Town is pretty is pretty dark. What I loved about U2 and Bruce Springsteen, they say things like we're going somewhere and we can go somewhere together and we can go somewhere better. And with Snow Patrol's Eyes Open, it's all heart. That's very, very vague, but it's all heart, and um it's all about really trying to repair things and get somewhere beyond your current location. Um, you know, and when I go there with you. It's all I can do. Where the streets have no name, is there somewhere beyond the boundaries of here and now? Mr. I and a boy, no, I'm a man. I believe in the promised land. You know, that's where those albums. That's the most amazing thing. My favorite lyrics from Eyes Open. The final word and the final sentence you ever uttered to me was love. You know, there's a thread. I think there's a thread of
Yeah, I think there is, and I've said this to you before, both quite serious and in jest, that when I see you on stage, that there's Springsteen on the other side of the planet is going, "There's somebody channeling me right this moment." Um,
yeah,
and you're much more approachable. Certainly, getting to see you is easier in Belfast.
yeah,
But yeah,
sure,
I can see the other influences in you too.
yeah,
No pun there.
yeah. It was good. I appreciate it.
So in terms of your creative process, I know a lot of people tell me that they hear something in their head or they have an idea, and that a lot of the joy and the difficulty of the creative process is getting that from the inside onto the outside. And I suppose my question for you is, how much does the finished thing resemble what you originally had in your head? And where those differences are and how you accommodate that?
Yeah, great question. Um, there can be a huge distance. So I produce everything in this room and record everything in this room. Um, and so when I have a song, it will start on the guitar, the acoustic, with a sort of a. So if I remember, I brought out a song called "Love Is Gonna Hurt This Way Forever," and I had the melody and I kind of had that over and over again on sort of a verse and chorus. So then what I'd do is I would start then, I'd have certain words would stand out, and then I'd knit the unconscious sounds of those words to then a conscious message, and then I'd be quite, like, right, okay, where's my message? Do I have an arc of this? Da 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 da. Where does it? What happens? And et cetera, with the lyric. But then when it actually comes to the making of the song and what style, what direction I'm going to go in, that can be very, very different. So, for example, that song "Love Is Gonna Hurt," I had 3 different recording versions that were some more complete than others, but it just didn't. You know, it didn't move me until the last one I got, and I went, "No, I think this is where it needs to go." But what happens is when you're in the studio and you're making it, I like to keep it. If I have a wee guitar part, or if I'm playing a certain chord that I think sounds good in my head when I'm sitting doing it, that doesn't mean that it's going to work when I'm recording it. So everything's off the table, apart from, certain lyrics and certain melodies. I need a song, but sonically, the production and all that, that's anything can happen there. And so it would be really interesting to have a time machine. Just it would, but um, to have a time machine and go, okay, you write the song, here's what it's going to sound like straight away would I like it, or would I be like, oh God, where did you go there with that? Because there is a big distance between what you hear in your head and then what finally comes out. And sometimes it's very easy. Most of the time it's very, very difficult, and it can change. But that's why you do it. Anything worth doing is difficult, so that's
So
it.
a lot of the people I talk to, they're in a band. You perform with a band under your own name, but when it comes to recording this, how collaborative is that experience for all of you together?
So yeah, it starts with me, and I'll make things, I'll go over and over, and then I'll send it to them. I'll send it to Tom and Danny, and I'll send something to Evan, or Evan does the sax part. He can send ideas. Um, but it really is, it's just kind of me doing most of the bits, and then they give me their thoughts. Have I gone too far? That sounds silly. That sounds bad. And I never feel like delicate when I get their input, because their input is so good and always comes from a very loving place, and a place of making the song or the recording sound as good as possible. And so they collaborate very, very well in that way, and backing vocals as well. They've got great voices, and I when I can, if I'm not under too tight a schedule of trying to finish something, they'll send over things, or we'll get in a room and we'll sing and stuff like that, which is so important, just the humanity. Because sometimes when it's just you on your own, you can sometimes forget the humanity and forget that joy of being together and making music. And so I try to capture that, and yeah, but their advice and their wisdom is that's their collaboration, and that's what they do most, and that's what I value so much.
You touched on ideas of joy. It's one thing that I think the bands on the local scene that really stand out for me are the ones that seem just so happy to be there. And, you know, I I can't think of Evan without thinking of him smiling.
Yeah, yeah.
He's genuinely seems so happy to be on stage, so at ease, and just joyous in those moments, making music with you.
Mhm. Yeah, Evan is a happy day I met Evan. And I never imagined that he could be so much um like so with me in that emotional moment on stage. I didn't think anybody could, because well, that's my name, and it's there's so much I feel at stake here. But then he just, when we're on stage, it's like it's like we're in a play park or something, kids in it, but it's just so active and so funny and serious, happy and then sad, and it's just, I feel just such a wealth of emotion. And I feel that too with Tom and Danny, because I played music with them for such a long time on and off. I feel just this history and this telepathy and this just weight of emotion when we're all on stage together, that is such a gift, such a gift. And then Neil as well, who I've played with too, is a wonderful, wonderful guitarist, and really cherish getting to play with him live too. um but yeah, they just they're all like characters. They all have their own really distinct character and distinct impact on the live sound. And I'm very, very lucky to have that. Yeah.
Talk to you about creative struggles,
Hmm.
because a lot of people are very happy to talk about success and this came out right. Can I ask you, has there ever been an occasion where you've had to compromise your creativity in a way that maybe wasn't a happy experience for you, and how did you navigate through that?
God, yeah. I've had sleepless nights, and oh, it's awful, awful times. I Big journey is learning and letting go of certain things, but not letting go of everything. I think I put my name on that. I'm not good at coming up with band names or artist names, so I put my name on it, and I knew if I put my name on it, that I will put everything into it. And there's certain things that I can't compromise. There's The point of it being me is, I think, what I have to say, and so a lot of my lyrics, unless it's like a that word won't work so well. Someone could give me some advice there. It's like, that's a bit of a harsh sound, or I don't, or maybe that lyric is, I just didn't enjoy that so much. I'd be like, okay, but I couldn't have anyone write my lyrics, because then what's the point? So I can't really do that. Melody and things like that, that's fine. And that's certain, um, chords and stuff. Danny was great at, there's certain, you know, endings or bits and middles of songs, stuff like that, where he'd be like, "Oh, what about here?" And he would just go to a different guy, be like, "Oh, it's beautiful," or he's got a really amazing. He's just an amazing musician, and he's much more musically intelligent than I am, and he'll change a chord, or he'll say, "What about this right here, this inversion?" And that works so brilliantly. But I think the core of the actual songwriting, I can't compromise on that, and I have had times. I've had very, very tough times when I was straight out of school, band before what I have now, my solo, um, just Mark Hegan. Sony brought us over to record, and there was a lot of there were connections, people who'd worked with One Direction and stuff like that were doing that, and they wanted to change everything so it sounded like One Direction. And so the big issue there was everyone telling me, look, what are you unhappy? What are you doing? What are you unhappy about? Just suck it up. It's Sony. And I could not live with myself. I could not live with myself in that direction it was going. So we left it. And I don't know what they were just kind of maybe, you know, just taking us for a ride a little bit, as no harm to them, at all. But it was just, the question there. That's immediately what I thought of. That whole compromise, because you're bushy, you're wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, and you want to succeed, but it just, I felt like my soul was, my heart was being ripped out, and I couldn't do it, because the whole point of me picking up a guitar was not that. That wasn't it. I didn't do it for business. I did it for, and do it for, because I want to say things in a particular way and want them to have a certain integrity that I can't compromise. So yeah, and that's a horrible feeling, but I feel like now I'm older, I'm less, you know, as time goes on and you do it enough, you know what you can't compromise.
Can I ask, how old were you around the time that you got taken on by Sony?
18.
Yeah, young and impressionable
Yeah,
period.
absolutely.
Yeah, that that's gotta be a really difficult choice to, everybody wants some degree of success, no matter how they envision that success to be. And if you've got, the corporate folk around you going, this is how you get to success. We know we've taken One Direction there. You can be, maybe you don't want to be the next One Direction, but you do want success.
Yes.
Um, a few years down the line, I take it you're still very happy with the decision you made.
Yes. Yes. I mean, some people might think I'm stupid, but some people close to me might think I'm stupid, but absolutely. I think what I have now, I wouldn't trade for the world what I have now, because I did it. I did it myself, and wonderful people in the music scene have helped me, and wonderful family and friends, lift me up, and that is so great. And the number one thing is my mistakes are my own mistakes. If I make a mistake and then in hindsight I look at it, realize it was a mistake, it came from my own artistic journey. And that's very, very important. And I go, well, at least I can stand up and go, that wasn't someone else telling me I should do this. That was me, final say, going, I'm doing this for a reason that is my own. It's a motivation that is my own. Um, and I think the audience that I have now, that I've worked so hard to find and will hopefully grow and grow, is wonderful. I feel like I I I love them, and I love the conversations. Every gig feels like an emotional conversation with them, and a just a togetherness. And I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. I love it.
Yeah, I'm thinking through, like, some of your songs that I really love, and genuinely songs like, say, Human Mind, I could not imagine that being released by shall we say, a mainstream artist on a major label. So for that alone, I thank you for making that decision. But I suppose come the future, the hopefully the repertoire grows, the audience grows. If you're approached by another big label, do you think you could do it differently this time?
It completely depends on the demon or the deal and the team, the demon and the teal. Um,
You might be
uh,
right with the demon.
yeah. And it does. No, I'm sure there absolutely could. It would be super to have big money and a big plan and a big, that would be great. I'm never saying no to that. I just, it'd be very scary because I think, I've had a number of times where I've been writing music and someone's been watching, as in, well, have you got anything new? And that scares me. But I'm of course open to it if it's the right thing, if it's the right deal, absolutely. But what I think is great about this day and age is that I can be an artist and make my artistic statement and reach people. In it's me doing it. There's no one else, going, oh, we gotta check this over, we gotta final. It's me, and it's authentic as I can make it. And so that's cool. But the future, who knows?
I think it's that authenticity that so many of your very devoted fans really love, and I count myself among them. That I feel that emotion. I've literally been like 2 feet away from you on stage, and you can feel that intensity, you can feel that integrity, and I think no matter where you are in the room, you get that from you as an artist, and I absolutely love it.
Thank you. That's lovely. Thank you so much. That's really, yeah, that's it. That's,
If
I
that's what
don't
you're
know
aiming for,
what to
you're
say.
doing.
I really, really appreciate it. That means that's the highest honor. It really is. Thank you.
So you're a stalwart of what we call the local scene. Is there anybody here in the scene that is doing good work that is deserves more recognition than they're currently getting?
Lots. I'm great friends with Foreign Mornings, and I love them. They're a great band. They've helped me a lot. Um, and Michael, we have a wonderful relationship because what happens is we'll meet up and I'll see they've done something. My Mark Hegan is uh copying what Foreign Mornings have done because they're really clever and they're really good. And so I owe my career to this point to really them and their ingenuity and their creativeness. And I have a great relationship with Michael because I'll see they did something and I'll meet up with him. We'll have coffee and we'll talk about music and stuff. And he'll go, or I'll say to him, I saw you were doing that. You managed to get that opportunity. You get. And then immediately any competitiveness or anything like that, there is natural competition, but it never feels negatively competitive. It feels wonderful. It feels great. And so I love them. They are absolutely, absolutely fantastic. And I saw them playing last night. I saw them playing as well. Aqua Tofana were playing as well. They're brilliant. They were really, really good. Never seen them before. Uh,
Aqua Tofana are absolutely fantastic.
yeah. They were
I don't think I've seen Foreign Mornings play just yet, but they're
right.
kind of. I have this mental list of people that are on the local scene that I've filmed you numerous times. There's a number of bands that I never set out to be like kind of a super fan documenting pretty much every live performance. But I have,
Yes.
and but there are still like bands that are really active on the local scene that I haven't yet gotten to, and yeah, I think Foreign Mornings are one of those.
Like ships in the night sometimes. They're a wonderful band. I did a gig in Fieldies in Bangor, which is they do back bar sessions. And they're super. And they're the most scary but rewarding gigs because it's just people sitting watching you, and that's very, very scary. In this old Irish stout pub, and that just
I know Fealties well, though it's been a
you know
long time.
Fieldy's well.
Yeah,
Well, it's hosted by King Cedar, who's Steve McCartney, who's another absolutely wonderful artist, who is who's so great.
another person I would love to get the opportunity to film in
Yeah,
session.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Well, he steps, he hosts the night and he always just plays and he's effortless and he's absolutely brilliant. And there's my next door neighbor is Chris Marston, Kippy's Muse, and he's wonderful as well. He's a wonderful local artist. He's a songwriter, and we'll do these wonderful quiet gigs with acts like Noir, who are a wonderful. They gigged in Sunflower fairly recently, and I went to see them, and they're wonderful people. I know Francis, the singer, and Simon on keys, and then Chris on guitar as well. They're brilliant. They've recorded stuff, but I don't know when they're releasing it. They're just super. But there's so many great artists and great people doing things. And yourself, Robert, deserve a big shout out as
Believe me, I'm getting more than enough adulation. Well, I do probably quite a bit more than I deserve. So
no, it's great to you film and you turn up your dedication, your passion, and for musicians when we're doing it so much, we sometimes forget that joy, and then it's on your face, see it in the crowd, you feel it, and it makes the performances more powerful, and then we get this wonderful video of all our mistakes on stage, which is great. So professionally done, and it's brilliant. And I'm when the first time I met you, and we talked, and then I played, and it felt like it gave my performance and made me feel on stage this connection because of what we were speaking about. And that's just you. You turn up and you do your thing, and you're so emotional and so joyful and but just human, and that is just class.
as I've said to you before, and people will be bored hearing this again and again, listening to live music has been so important, for my mental health, for so much of my life. And I just stumbled across something where I can feed that, obsessive compulsive archaeologist part of me
Yes.
that wants to, save these little ephemeral moments and do something that is hopefully seen positively by the artist community, by the fans, and may just hopefully open a few of them to being seen by the wider industry. I'm getting so much out of it, and I'm having so much fun, and it is nice to be appreciated. But what I kind of wanted to go and ask you is, the wider thing. We've got a really wonderful local scene. We've got some great venues, but we're in, a lot to me and to a lot of other people. The Belfast scene is struggling. And I think we're finding it difficult to get people through the doors. We're finding it difficult to sell tickets, and I'd love to know what your kind of broader opinion is on this event or this.
Yeah. Yeah. Selling tickets is tough and people buy on the day. That's great that they turn up, but it is tough because you're left as an artist. You have to pay people and you feel this weight of expectation and you just don't know what's going to happen. That's really, really tough. I don't know. I don't know what the solution to that is. I work really, really hard to try and get people into the room and try and give them a reason to keep coming back. In terms of the scene in general, there are great people. I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing at the level I'm doing, or as you know, I want to say successfully, but in terms of, putting on the gigs and stuff like that, which I love doing, I feel very blessed to be able to do it and have people come. I couldn't have had any of that without the talent development officer at the time in OEM Music Centre 3 years ago, which is Charlene Hegarty, who is now at the Musicians Union, which is an organization that the whole aim is to value, represent musicians in all sorts of ways. Which is a wonderful organization. I would just send music to emails, or I would just say hello and introduce myself. And I sent one through to her or through to Oh Yeah. And then I was at Output 3 years ago and met her, and she went, "Oh, you're the fella who sends me all the music." And then we had a Skype call, and she said, "Look, I'm curating Sound at Belfast Festival. Um, if you wanted to do a night, maybe you could." And then I said, "Well, I'll do an EP launch." And then I did an EP launch, did that, and it went so well. And then I started going, right, I can headline. And then slowly but surely it grew and grew and grew. But she took a punt and said, as part of this festival, you can have a slot. And then I sent her more music, and she was she was like, "This, really enjoyed it, and this is great." And then here are other contacts, and tell them I was, sending you radio and stuff. Amazing people. Olga on Q Radio is just one of the best people ever. I'm introduced to her through Charlene. And then from there it grows and grows, and you suddenly find there are wonderful, wonderful people like yourself, Robert, who care about music and care about connection and are great, great people. And I'm very, very thankful to know. And so the scene in general, there are people there. And I think there are people there who are there for the right reasons. That's what I believe. I believe the right reasons are the love of music and the love of connection with people. And so they're there. You just have to find them, and it is very tricky to find them. But I got very lucky in finding a number of people in the scene. As for getting people through the door, I just kind of go right and put my heart in my sleeve, and going for it, and hopefully that cuts through the noise, the 2026 noise, digital noise, and then people will come and we'll have a great connection. We'll have a great show. But the people are out there. They really are.
Yep, can be just difficult getting them up off their couches and into the venues.
It really can be. It really can be. Now, I don't know how, but I do little, I have my wee tricks. I'll not flyer. I'll give them business cards with links to the QR, to the ticket links and the QR code in the back, and I'll just, I'll give out free ones, or I'll run competitions, and just whatever I can do to get people along, and tell their friends. And then, what I'll do is as well, the live show I'll work so hard at, so that once people are there, they'll have a reason to come back. And I'll act stupid on stage. That's the whole thing. When I play live, like I remember playing in Dublin, and I just really get into it and just move around, the sweat. You just lose your mind, and you're in all this adrenaline in your brain. I just feel really in the moment, and you're not entirely in control of your moves. I don't practice into the mirror with my moves, but I remember in Dublin, we were playing a gig, and there were a load of people there, and they were watching. I was like, "Oh, cool, they're watching." And then there were two guys in the back in hysterics. And I think they were laughing at my face or laughing at something I was doing. But I kind of went, well, this is it, isn't it? The point is, if I make an ass out of myself up there by enjoying myself and being so in the moment, people on stage, in the crowd, will feel that they can be a bit more vulnerable. And then you open up this whole back and forth of vulnerability, I think. And that's the whole point of music. It's the whole point of music. You let your animal out, and you love, and you without boundary, and you're yourself, and you don't need to be, oh God, what do people think of me? Forget that when you come into the room. And that's how I think maybe people keep returning. Maybe they like that. But you just got to be yourself, and just got to, and then hopefully people will come. I don't know. I'm just talking.
Well, it's as good a theory to work with as any.
Yeah.
So
Well,
we've covered the past, we've covered a bit of the present. Talk to me about the future. What are you working on right now that's really exciting that you can tell me about?
I have a song that is ready to go, ready to go. That is going to be the first song off an EP. I feel like I'm in my Nebraska era. So I have an EP that's coming that I think is just, all the songs are acoustic. And for so much of my career to this point, I've been trying to prove, I think, to the audience that I can mix and I can produce and I can make professional sounding songs. But I think this time I want the listener to feel like I'm in the room with them. And that's what these songs, I think, what makes them sound best, that sort of production. And that's what the songs have directed me in that way. So that's what I'm working on at the minute. And I've been booking up my year. There will be a Belfast show, a big Belfast show. And there will be shows in other places and stuff. And I've got some cool festivals and stuff I've announced already. I'm really lucky to be going to Belladrum in Scotland. I'm playing with Aslan, who are the most wonderful band. I sometimes wake up in the night and go, I'm supporting Aslan. I'm supporting them in Donegal on the 4th of July. And I have a number of other gigs coming up that are being worked out as we speak. So I've big plans, and I feel like I'm this next EP is going to be very, very special and different. That's what everyone says. Special
So
and
I'm already excited because when you talk about Springsteen albums, you picked Darkness on the Edge of Town. If I have to pick my favorite Springsteen album, it's Nebraska.
yeah,
And when you say it's this is a Nebraska period album for you, then I'm all on board for that.
awesome.
I'm going to be fascinated to see you perform stuff from that. Uh, you kind of touched on some of this, that you're booking up your year going into the future. Is do you have your sights set on, like, you've played so many different types of venues, you've supported a lot of really interesting acts. Is there kind of like a bucket list gig,
Yeah.
venue that you'd like to do, that is kind of like you're setting as your North Star? This is what I want.
Um, okay, I had a really special moment when there's a great artist, another great local artist, Matt McIver, who spins songs and stuff like that at the Giants games in the SSE Arena, formerly the Odyssey. That's where I saw my first gig. And I've seen many gigs, and he played my music in there, and he's played it quite a lot, and then would send me a video of, you know, it happening. And then other people, I mean, people I haven't spoken to in years would then send me a message. Oh, look, is this your song? This is your song. I've heard this. This is really cool. I'd love to play a gig in there, because the emotion behind that, behind hearing your music in the place where you saw your first gig, and you feel such a connection to. I mean, I think a lot of people would say, "Oh, Madison Square Garden or Red Rocks or whatever," but I Ward Park. I'd love to. Snow Patrol would ever have me on the bill. I would love that. That would make me cry constantly. I wouldn't be able to perform. I'd just be hyperventilating.
We
It
can
has
tag Snow Patrol
we could tag
in.
Snow Patrol in this.
Yeah, and
And listen, I wouldn't say no to Bruce either, or you too. In fact, I wouldn't say no to literally anyone. But
I suppose that is part of
but
being a musician, that it's.
yeah, I think the Odyssey, the SC, that would be so great. And there's amazing venues here. The Ulster Hall, my goodness, I'd love to play in the Ulster Hall too. What a great venue. But I've been really lucky with the amount of places I've got to play in, here and around the UK, and places full of character in Ireland too, that are really really special. Yeah, yeah. one day.
Fair enough. For myself, when those days come, I'm hoping to be there, whether it's a
Absolutely.
member of the audience or standing on the corner with the camera. I'd love to be there for any part of it I can be.
In the wings, definitely.
As I've said to many people before, my definition of success in this is to be standing in the crowd in somewhere like Custom House Square with somebody that I filmed, in Voodoo or somewhere like that with 20 people. They're headlining, and I'm telling everybody in the crowd, I know this guy, and them not believing me. That's oh, there's no way you could possibly know Mark Hegan. The guy's a superstar. Uh,
Well, we'll see.
so
Don't hold your breath, but yeah,
hey, if you don't aim for it, it doesn't happen.
that's
So
true.
the final question I have for you is always kind of the philosophical one. Um, what is the one thing about making it as a musician here in Northern Ireland that is different from perhaps anywhere else, and maybe people from outside of here don't understand?
Great question. I lived in London for a bit, and I started this musical adventure as it is now there. And it the difference between Northern Ireland and there in terms of our musical scene is just leagues of difference. There is such an appreciation here for grassroots. You can put a band together and you can find opportunities and you can go to free networking events. Like Rocky O'Reilly puts on amazing ones of Start Together Studio. And you can meet
Can we
people.
just say Rocky O'Reilly is
Oh,
just amazing? Just
Rocky is just the most Rocky's most amazing person, and I've worked with him for years. He's mastered so much of my music and does a great job, and he is just such a super person. And he is just his continuity. He's always been there and will always be there. Damn it. Never stop, please. He's so great. And
can I
he
tell
and
you a
he
Rocky O'Reilly story?
Horse, please.
Um, I think we'd followed each other on Instagram, but we'd never actually communicated. Actually, we did not meet until recently. But I was my youngest kid goes to it's Jam, it's Junior Academy of Music,
Okay.
and in the SARC building is part of the Queen's Department of Music, and wasn't this summer? I think it must be in the summer before. I was in there early, helping my youngest set up their thing, and I heard a bunch of older kids talking about who they thought was cool. And, there's great acoustics in that room. You don't have to be beside them to hear what they're saying. And one of them mentioned Rocky O'Reilly and just how important, like, all the social media stuff that he does
Yes.
is, how it's really formative for them. It's good content, it's good information, and it's helping them understand what they want to do. And this is where I decided I had to write to this guy and tell him, because they said, one of them said, I'd love to talk to him, but you know, I'm sure he wouldn't be interested in hearing from somebody like me. I thought,
Uh,
well, maybe you're not ready to talk to him, but you know what? I don't have any scruples about this. And I said, listen, man, this is feedback you need to hear. And it was just one of those things and it just reinforced for me some really important things about what Rocky does for our local scene.
Good for you. And you got in touch with him and told him that, and
Yeah,
I'm sure that meant so much to him. And he's just the right
I
person.
hope so. Like I said, I only got to meet him recently. I had just finished filming the Dublin band Hawk, and I was talking to them. They were clearing up their stuff off stage, and I was saying, "Hey guys, I'll be back to you in a week or two with a video." And Rocky's name came up, and I said, "Oh, he's absolutely wonderful. I really love what he does." And while I know nothing about how you work in a studio, I will watch all his stuff because I don't get any knowledge from it in that sense, but I just find it fascinating to listen to his stories. And I said I've spoken to him several times via social media, but we've never met. And they said, well, he's actually standing behind you. Like,
Great jump scare.
so with that, this is the point where I invite people to turn the tables and hit me with a question of their own devising. So what have you got for me?
What have I got for you? My goodness. What I was going to ask you, when you put these to me, I was thinking about this and the questions. I was going to ask you what you know, we all think we have final goals as musicians. What is your idea? What is your not end point, but is there a moment? Has there been a moment where you've gone, yeah, this is all my efforts, which are amazing and really appreciated. They're all worth it, or this is why I did this. And was there been a moment, or could there be a moment, if there hasn't, where you've gone and recognized your efforts and gone, this is what it's for?
There have been numerous ones of these, and all of them are meaningful. I've spoken before about I've had one person come to me and go, "I found your videos randomly on YouTube, and rather than just consuming them, I decided I'd come to a gig and see it for myself," and that just touched me.
Uh,
But uh, when I get feedback from artists saying, the fact that there's somebody our parents' age, who actually is interested in our music
yeah.
and is willing to, put resources, not just like show up and, pay a fiver for a ticket, but actually, film it, edit it, put it out there. I love those interactions. I love that this is, this is something that happens. Um, I've had so many people say, we come home from, half the band live together, and we come home from a night out and we'll go, well, what's on Chappell's channel? What's
Yeah.
he got put out recently? And I've had people on the local scene, members of bands who are going, well, we asked this group to support us because we didn't know them before we saw your video of them.
Yes. Yes.
And I love that I'm facilitating that kind of interaction. Is there an end goal? No, there is no end goal. Um, it was literally today I encountered the German word "hobbyless." That there's this idea that so many of our ills as a society are from people not having hobbies, that we can be vile to each other on social media or in person because we don't have things in our life that we devote energy and passion to. And my wife frequently says, I collect hobbies. So I collected books when I was an archaeologist. I wrote books when I was an archaeologist. That part of my life passed. I've moved on to other things. So I took up distilling, which I still passionately love. I took up trying to make wine, which was hideous. It
It's
was
awesome.
I took up making elderflower champagne, which was wonderful, but like it came out at 14 or 15%. So it tasted like, lemonade, but it got you absolutely twisted.
And
So for the
for-
safety of those around me, I gave that up. But, you know, um, I've taken up, so many things, and some I keep on, some I leave behind. But I think the point is to be forever curious.
yes.
And um, I took up wood turning some years ago, and I get so much from that, and I get joy from it. And you know, I I talk to people about, that come from, from belief structures and what they get from their religion, and I don't have that in my life. But you know what really does a lot for me is an hour of sanding, and
Yes.
you get into a different state, and so there are wonderful benefits from these things. Is there an end point? No, I don't see one, and inevitably, like I've taken on doing this podcast because I think it'll be fun. And I made a movie with my friend Kenny, who's a poet,
Hmm.
and we started with, oh, will we film a couple of bits and pieces, edit and fire it out onto YouTube? And I just came up with this personal mantra of, how do we have more fun? So it was like, okay, let's put it on the big screen. How do we have more fun? Let's do a poster. How do we have more fun? Well, let's do another movie. And so long as I'm having fun, um, that's why I'm going to keep going. And I've been through sometimes with I occasionally suffer with sciatica, and there are things like that that limit my ability to, well, leave the house. Um, so yeah, these things are finite. Like bands are finite.
Yes.
And so yeah, I won't do this forever, but I will do it while I'm having fun. And I hope I'm contributing a bit towards the net volume of happiness, joy, and kindness in the world by doing it. So
Absolutely.
that's as good an answer as I can give you.
So, two things. It's there's full circle. Childlike idealism. Stay curious. I love that. That's the first question you asked me, and then that's what you're doing. That's awesome. And secondly, why am I not interviewing you? What like this is ridiculous.
Come on,
What?
like what the world needs now more than anything else. I've said this before, is another white guy with a podcast. So
Yeah,
start
yeah.
your own podcast, interview me.
And we and your archaeology, and that is so cool. That is just the best. You're that's so inspiring. You must stay curious because that is, and that I think that's the cornerstone of being an artist, and that's a great. Stay curious.
I
That's
I was
all
recently
this. You could call this episode. Stay curious because that's it, isn't it? You've done it.
Well, I was recently got to talk to a couple of complete strangers. I just volunteered to give two people I didn't know a lift home after a gig. They're both in East Belfast, and there has been some civil unrest,
Yes.
and I thought the three of us together in a car stood a better chance than either them on their own or me on my own. And we were talking about different things, and they're significantly younger than I am, and there was the kind of the question, I don't really know what I want to do with my life. And I said, look, I'm 55 years of age. I'm still not entirely sure what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Perfect.
it's going to be fun no matter how we go about it. Look,
Absolutely.
let's draw it to a close there. And I'm going to thank you, Mark. You've been fantastic. And again, just to say to everybody that's listened this far, you probably deserve a medal, you probably deserve a badge, but at the least, can I ask you, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on the on Spotify, and with that, I'll say this has been another Handcrafted episode, and we'll see you at the next gig. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me, Robert. What a joy.